Hey everyone, welcome to the Lines Injury Podcast for NFL Week 7. My name is Nicole Russo and I am going to be filling in as your host today with Steven Andress out, but he will be returning next week, so don't worry. I am joined by Will Carroll at Injury Expert on Twitter, who has also released a new book in the last month called The Science of Football, so make sure you check that out. Yep, there it is. Will, how are you doing today?
Doing great. So many injuries to get to, and great to be working with you, Nicole.
I am excited. We do have a lot to get through, so let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to begin with the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa. Now, Tua is set to make his return Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's bad news for me because I am a Steelers fan. He was out for just over 3 weeks with a concussion. Now, we all know this was a very highly publicized concussion. It was a very highly publicized injury in terms of the protocols that the team and the NFL took. But Tua ended up coming out earlier this week commenting that he did lose consciousness on that September 29th game when he was sacked against the Bengals, and he does not remember being carted off the field. Of course, this incident came just a few days after his head hit the ground in the previous week's matchup against the Bills. But that being said, he is set to make his return, and the Dolphins are currently 7-point favorites against the Steelers. So what's your insight on this one?
Yeah, Tua is going to play. He's come back from the concussion. He cleared the last week, and he's had no setbacks along the way. Setback would be, symptoms returning. You get a little dizzy. You have a headache after activity. There's a lot of things that they look for, and he's had none of this. So it's a situation where, in theory, he's 100%. If somebody breaks a leg, it's easier to tell. Is that leg healed? Is he running as fast as he was with a concussion? You can't. They've done a lot of tests. They've done more testing than they needed to do, trying to figure out, is he neurologically all there? They've tried to induce symptoms. They've really gone above and beyond, which puts a lot of pressure on the protocol. There's another situation in Indianapolis with Shaq Leonard. They've just decided, hey, he passed the protocol, but we're not going to play him. And so either this protocol is good enough or it needs to be better. It's a really tough situation. I know that the medical staffs normally, 31 of 32 teams aren't allowed to speak, but this is a situation where you'd really like to hear exactly what they've done along the way, and we don't get that. We're having to get everything behind the scenes or put through the coaches who certainly are not hired to be medical experts. So with Tua, he should be normal. He should, certainly physically, you would hope that neurologically he doesn't have TJ Watt coming at him to try to concuss him again. So I think it's a good situation for him coming back. Not a huge pass rush there right now with Pittsburgh. So I think you have to go back to what he was doing before, and he looked pretty good to my eye.
Yeah, and Tua even commented, like you said, on how much testing and how intense from his perspective this process was, saying that he got opinions and second opinions and tests and more tests. So like you said, and I'll let you, obviously finish with your final thoughts, but from that standpoint, it seems like they've put him at this point through everything they can to get him ready to get back on the field.
And beyond. They've gone above and beyond with this. Is that good enough? We don't know. There's still so much we don't know about concussions. The things you don't have to worry about are second impact syndrome. A lot of people have been saying, oh, it's that second one. And whether he had that first one is something. But second impact usually only happens in younger athletes, and it is a much closer window. It's not even 5 days. It's like 5 minutes. That's why we have to pull people out and test them, because it is a concern. Some of the younger players in the NFL might be susceptible to it. But normally you only see that in like high school athletes, and we still don't even understand that. It's just a developing brain thing. So again, I think Tua is going to be normal. I'd keep him back where he was in week 2 and 3 in terms of modeling, and with the points they're giving, that one feels about right to me, given where Pittsburgh is.
And next up, we've got a move that Sent a lot of shockwaves through the community. Actually, during the Thursday night football game last night is when Schefter ended up breaking this news. But the San Francisco 49ers are going to send second, third, and fourth round picks in the 2023 draft, as well as a fifth round pick in the 2024 draft to the Carolina Panthers for star running back Christian McCaffrey. Now, we know McCaffrey is one of the best dual threats in the NFL when he is healthy, but his career has been plagued with injuries. So far, he has seemed to avoid them this season. Do you think this was a good value trade, and can San Francisco keep him healthy?
Well, the value remains to be seen. Trading for a running back is difficult. Trading for anybody is difficult. Giving up all those picks, I guess they're doing the Les Snead thing with picks. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how everything comes together. I think with Jimmy Garoppolo there, this gives him a ton of weapons that might be better suited to his style of play than Trey Lance's. With McCaffrey, I think Nirav Pandya is a sports med doctor from UCSF, and he follows the Bay Area really closely. And one of the things he said was, looking at McCaffrey, what we always look for with a number of injuries is it the same thing? And is it something that's controllable? Is it intrinsic or is it extrinsic? Some guys just break down under the load. They can't handle it. Nobody can handle the hits. If you blow out a knee, that's usually not your fault. That's usually you stepped wrong, the turf got you, or somebody just hit you wrong. He's had a bunch of little things, but they've all been different and they've all been extrinsic. Now, Ben Peterson and the sports performance staff, the sports med staff over there with the 49ers are really, really good. That said, they've had a ton of injuries this year. Something like Lance, you can't help. That's football. You're going to have those. But can they keep him healthy? I think they can. I think they've got a good shot at it. Putting him with Deebo Samuels, you've got a wide receiver that runs with the ball. You've got a running back that catches the ball. I think that's going to be just tough on defenses. I like the move. I think they can keep him healthy. The Panthers are good. I don't think there's suddenly some advantage. I think this is going to be about the same. I worry that he's going to pull a hamstring or something in the second week there. Those are going to be difficult because there's going to be so much perception on it. So my hope is for everybody, but especially McCaffrey. I hope he's healthy. Hope he plays. I think he'll look. It'll be really interesting watching him in those throwbacks like his dad were.
Yeah, and we've seen, and McCaffrey has actually said that he's gone to former running backs and asked them, how are you training? What are you doing? So he's taking onus of, like you said, some of these things that maybe he can control and trying to really make some changes to his training, his fitness, and potentially his diet to get him to the point where he is not on the sideline for so much of the season. So not only is it going to be the 49ers that got to have to work with him, but he does seem to be taking some responsibility for this on his own as well.
Yeah, one of the really interesting things to me about this one specifically is McCaffrey himself. We all know his father played in the NFL, but his brothers are also very high-level football players as well. And they haven't had the same injury problems. They've had some, but again, it's football. I always watch these. TJ Watt and JJ Watt have had several of the same things. Gronkowski and his brothers have had several of the same things. Sometimes genetics is telling, and sometimes it's not. I think with McCaffrey, it's maybe it's a positive. I'm just absolutely fascinated by the idea that someday we may, come in and swab somebody at the combine and go, oh, no, your ACL is never going to hold up.
You got some bad ACL DNA in there. Sorry, buddy. Yeah. We know you're really talented, but you're not going where you think you were in the draft. All right. Next up, we have Russell Wilson, who has had pretty lackluster performances so far this season, and now it looks like he is dealing with a hamstring injury. He did remain a limited participant in practice on Thursday, but Coach Nathaniel Hackett did say he looked very good throwing the football on Wednesday, although he would not share the split of the practice reps. Right now, the Broncos are still 1-point favorites against the Jets, with Wilson saying he does hope to play in that game. Do you see him playing in this one?
Yeah, I do. It's a really intriguing situation. Russell Wilson, There's so much that's, hate of Russell Wilson that's involved in this. People asking, why did he go to Los Angeles to get the PRP injection for his strained lat, which I think is a bigger problem than the hamstring. With the hamstring, he took a side trip back to see Neil Elitrosh since they were already in LA to get a PRP injection in his hamstring, and they've been waiting for that, which is why he's been limited in practice. I didn't see it happen. I watched that fourth quarter back, and granted, you don't get all the angles, you don't see what they're doing on the sidelines, but I didn't see it. And normally somebody grabs a hamstring. If you hurt your knee, you grab your knee. If you hurt your groin, if you remember when Joey Bosa did it, man, he just immediately went to protect that area. So I didn't see it. I don't think it's as significant a strain as people are letting on. I think he's going to play normally, but what that normally is, I'm not even sure anymore. I think the problem is that it's Russell Wilson. If we just said this was John Smith quarterback, you could say virtually any other quarterback in the league, give these same circumstances, and I think it would be perceived differently. This, he hasn't helped himself with the whole tiger blood thing, with the whole, what was it, Wolverine blood. Tiger blood was Charlie Sheen, totally different. But working out 19 hours to get back from a fracture. Russell's his own worst enemy with public perception. With this, I think we have to focus on low-grade hamstring strain, low-grade lat strain. Why the heck is he having all these strange strains so close to each other? Is he trying to do too much? Is his body breaking down? I think he'll play. I think he'll play normally. How you feel about normal for him, the way he's been playing this year, that one's on you. I'm not going to play him. I think the Jets are a better team than that line is given.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. It's like even if he is starting, does that get me excited? Not really. I do think that he clicked a little bit more with that offense early on this past week. And obviously you had the special team snafu that kind of ended that game. But yeah, I'm with you. I didn't see anything very clearly that would indicate that there's a reason that he can't play in this upcoming week. Now, we are going to shift our attention to a team that is completely banged up, one of the most injured teams in the league, and we still have another one to get to, but that is the Saints. We have Jameis Winston, who has been out with a back injury. Andy Dalton actually looked like he was going to potentially miss Thursday Night Football with the back injury as well, but ended up playing in that 42-34 loss to the Cardinals. Winston hasn't had a full practice, but he is making progress towards his return. But obviously, the injuries do not stop there. We have wide receiver Michael Thomas out with a foot injury. Jarvis Landry is also out with an ankle injury. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore is dealing with an ab injury. Keith Kirkwood is a wide receiver who's questionable, and the list goes on and on. So what are your thoughts on this team?
Well, I think what you have to do is take a look at, injury stacks are always tough. If you're down to the third and fourth and fifth wide receiver, it's usually bad. I mean, Rashid Shaheed looked pretty good. Sometimes this is why people say next man up, because sometimes that next man up is good. Why? I always wondered, why was he fifth string? You get those. So I like those sorts of things. But the fact is, you're going so far down the depth chart. If you're pulling out your third string quarterback, even if it's Taysom Hill, you're in trouble. If you're pulling out your third string cornerback, especially on a team that plays three cornerbacks more than almost any other team, they're in nickel and dime a ton. So this is just a terrible situation. And I really worry about this one because there's only so many hours in the day for the athletic trainers, even the doctors and the other associated health professionals that are in there. There's only so many hours in the day. They can't live in the training room. Yeah. So you start, if you're working on that many players, trying to get them back, you're not doing the same kind of preventative work you've normally done. So that falls on, the coaches, the strength and conditioning staff sometimes. I think this is a really tough situation. I don't see it getting better. I'm also a little worried that we see more ankle, foot, hamstring injuries. They changed out the turf there in the Superdome. Is that an issue? Yeah, I'm always looking for changes. Whether it's the medical staff, whether it's coaching, but turf is one of those things where if it's not just right, it can be very problematic. Talked to somebody with the NFL who said it passed all the tests. They've been monitoring it the same way they do with every field, grass and turf. But for me, it's just a few too many injuries. Could be coincidence, but it's something I'm keeping an eye on. The Saints are they're just so far down right now. I think it showed last night that a flawed team like the Cardinals let them score, but they're going to have a tough time with a lot of teams.
And this is more of an opinion question, but for me, I was actually surprised to see Dalton take the field. I actually thought that it was going to be Taysom Hill, and obviously Dalton threw a handful of interceptions in that game. Was there anything that you saw that would indicate that you still feel like he is dealing with that back injury and is not 100%?
Yeah, he wasn't extending. You could see him, kind of tighten up. You could see him trying to stay loose on the sidelines. The few looks we got over there, I don't think he was terribly uncomfortable. I don't think it held him back, but I don't think he was 100% comfortable and ready to go and do all the things he needs to do. I don't think they have much confidence left in Jameis Winston. They're looking for excuses. I think one of the things, when you talk to NFL players, we always talk about short weeks and how players can't get back for it. Every player I talk to talks about the long week afterwards and how much rest they get and how much more they're able to do in a couple of days off, even just getting a mental break. So I'm curious to see whether that helps the Saints.
Next up, we've got Mac Jones and the Patriots. Now, Mac has been dealing with a high ankle sprain that left him on the sidelines the past few weeks, although there is hope he will return in week 7 for the game against the Bears. Now, he ended up making the road trip last week, but did not play in their week 6 matchup against the Browns. A lot of reports are saying he still isn't 100%, but they are 8-point favorites in this matchup against the Bears. Do you think Mac suits up for this one?
Yeah, I talked to a source this afternoon. Mac is going to play on Monday, and it'll be very interesting to me. This was an ankle injury, high ankle, which is the ligament in between the two bones of the lower leg. We call it a high ankle because nobody wants to say syndesmosis over and over. This was considered for surgery, and this is a surgery that we've seen. Tua Tagovailoa has it in both ankles. And Jones went back to the Alabama doctor that had done those surgeries, rather. So it's really a situation where it's going to come down to mobility and function. Mac Jones isn't the most mobile guy to begin with. That offense isn't designed for a mobile quarterback, so that's not going to hurt him very much. But he's got to be able to move. You got to be able to run for your life. And you've also got to have a stable base to make the throws he does. He's very much a mechanical thrower. Meaning, he's not going to make those throws like you see from Pat Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, where they're, dropping down or jumping up or throwing off balance or flipping. He's just not that kind of athlete. He's more athletic than people give him credit for, I think, but he's still not that kind of athlete. Few are. I'm very worried about this. When we've seen pictures of him over the last couple of weeks, a lot of people were focused on a very large knee brace that he had. It didn't have the covering over it. It's cooler, so you don't sweat as much. But it's the same knee brace he wears all the time. You couldn't see a brace on his ankle, but there was either a whole lot of tape or tape over a brace. And there are braces for a high ankle sprain, but they're not very well liked. There's a lot of controversy. They're not very comfortable, and you have to get used to it. Now, he's certainly had 2 weeks of practice to get used to it, but his foot is not going to feel normal. Even if he can play, he's just not going to feel 100%. And that confidence in his foot really worries me. I'm very confused by the line. I don't love this for Jones. I think there's too much chance that he gets either re-injured, because you see a lot of recurrences with this, especially with as severe as it was, or that he's just not going to be able to move and starts taking hits that he shouldn't, ends up with a shoulder or a head injury. So this line, I'm completely flummoxed by this one, especially in light of Jones' help. I'm jumping all over it.
Is there a normal? You've said obviously that this is a pretty common injury in the NFL. Is this the normal time frame for when we see somebody back on the field for Mac, or is it normally a little bit longer? Because you've expressed that you're a little concerned with him coming back in this spot.
Yeah, I think the situation we have is that we normally see this about 4 to 6 weeks, and he's at the early part of that. Is he going to hurt it more? Possibly, but they certainly, the medical people there think it's safe, that it's stable, that he can go out, and you have to respect that.
Yeah.
It's on the quicker end, but that's not necessarily bad. The other thing to keep in mind is a lot of players come back before they're fully healed. Bones don't fully heal before people come back. They heal enough for us to feel comfortable. It's the same thing with a sprain. It's got to be stable up to a point, and they can get a good look at it, whether it's ultrasound is tough in that situation. They probably have to do another MRI. Those aren't cheap, but hey, the Patriots can afford it.
Hey, it's the NFL. Next up, we've got another very, very injured team with the San Francisco 49ers, but they did get some good news recently because Nick Bosa, Jimmy Ward, and Trent Williams all returned to practice. They have obviously each been rehabbing their injuries. Bosa was dealing with a groin injury. He was able to practice lightly last week, but still did not play in the Week 6 game against the Falcons. He was said to be limited in his return to practice this week. Now they are going to face Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs as 2-point underdogs. Does Bosa make his return here, in your opinion?
Yeah, talked to a source this morning, and they think yes, he does. It's going to be a situation where this is the worst possible case, is having to chase Pat Mahomes, having to make quick moves. Talked about just the kind of athletic moves he made. And if you want to know how he trained those, that's chapter 9 in Science of Football. But it's one of those situations where the thing that's going to hurt him is going to be quick motions. I worry first about him coming around the edge, guy chucking him and him having to make that quick adjustment so that you don't fall down. That's the first. The second is, if he gets by and Pat Mahomes spins out and does one of his crazy runs and jukes him back, Bosa's going to make a quick move out of instinct, and that groin, which is not fully healed, everybody knows that, it just is going to give way again. Even the healing it has is only 60 to 70% as strong. So I just don't know how he's going to be able to do that. You can't say, Nick, don't chase Mahomes. I think he's definitely going to be on a play count. They're going to try to put him in situations, but those situations are exactly the ones that are going to be most dangerous for him. I'm calling this one a true game time decision. They're going to test him, 90 minutes before. All indications are that he's going to play.
And for our final 2 games, we've got the Lions and the Ravens. So we're going to start with the Lions. Injuries have taken running back DeAndre Swift out of the game for the last 2 weeks, but he did practice on Wednesday and told reporters he was pushing to play against the Cowboys. He is said to have looked into additional equipment like a shoulder harness to help with some of his injuries, but hasn't really been able to find anything that he feels aids that injury to his comfort. Right now, the Lions are 6.5-point dogs. Is Swift going to play in this one? And do you feel like he's ready to come back?
Yeah, I think what's interesting here is that he seems more bothered by the shoulder than the ankle. They sat him out, and the thought was he would, chain together a couple weeks off plus the bye and not lose as much game time while still getting the same kind of healing. That was a bold move. But that shoulder doesn't appear to be have healed up in the same amount of time. With them talking about the harness, I think what they're worried about is he's going to fall again and that it's going to move back out and that they're going to be back at ground zero. Terrible. He's a guy who's involved in the passing game, and if he's basically got one arm tied to his side, you end up with one little T-Rex arm. That doesn't work out very well for you. You can't avoid contact. People think the shoulder pads really help the shoulder. They help the contact, and usually in a linear fashion. They don't help at all when you fall on it. When you fall to the side, they kind of collapse and just hit you in the helmet. There's nothing they can do aside from basically bracing the upper arm to the body. So I'm a little worried about that. I do think he's going to play. I think he's going to be on something of a limited snap count, but Detroit got to get him back. Their season is already looking to fall away after a really good start, but they've got Rob Brown back. We'll have to see whether Goff can find some points.
And last up, we have the Ravens. Now, star tight end Mark Andrews is questionable while dealing with a knee injury. The Ravens stated that he did not practice for 2 consecutive days heading into this week's matchup against the Browns, but he did return to practice on Friday, saying he felt good and ready to go. What have you seen with this injury, and what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think what we have to understand is the context of the team, and the Ravens are exceptionally conservative with their starters. They will sit them out Wednesday and Thursday without blinking. It's Friday practice, it's Saturday walkthrough, it's the pregame where they make their decisions. And John Harbaugh and his medical staff, they'll just sit somebody out on Wednesday for no reason at all. You'll get those veteran rest days. Andress is banged up. What I'm worried about is the seasonal kind of fatigue, that he's getting worn down. Same with Jackson. They've already got Bateman out with the foot. They brought in Deshaun Jackson, which kind of indicates they think that receivers room needed a boost from a guy who hasn't been that good the last couple of seasons, but he's still fast. I am worried a little bit about Andress because he just he takes such hits. He's willing to put his body out there. He goes across the middle so much. The knee, it's just a minor MCL sprain, so he'll be able to play through it. It's a question for me of whether this is going to keep working on him, whether he's just going to wear down. And by the time you get to week 14, week 15, I don't think we have to worry about the playoffs for the Lions or for the Ravens. The way they're playing right now, but it's certainly a situation where you want him ready. You want him being able to get into those last spots. So with Andrews, with Jackson, with their running backs, the Dobbins situation is really problematic right now. So that's a team that's got to get healthy if they're going to get into the playoffs.
And that is a team that is constantly plagued with injuries as well. Will, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for letting me fill in as your host. And to our listeners, if there's any game that you are looking to bet this weekend, then as always, make sure you take a look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That is where all of our best offers are with our sportsbook partners. And if you are wagering, good luck with those bets. Steven will be back next week. Thank you for allowing me to fill in as host, and we will see you next time.